Sonny Villarreal is a good friend of the advertising community here in Houston, a good friend of the American Advertising Federation Houston, a board member. He is a Harvard graduate with a degree in psychology, and his approach to marketing is rooted in understanding the intrinsic motivations that drive human behavior. Think about that for a moment. He applies this expertise not just to consumer insights and creative development, but to building culture and partnerships. So we've known Sonny for a long time. Sonny has worked with great brands like Bank of America, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Samsung, the Houston Astros, the Houston Dynamo, CenterPoint Energy, and the list goes on and on. He is a recipient of the Rising Star Award from the Culture Marketing Council and the Mosaic Star from the American Advertising Federation. So when we heard that Sonny had put together a new agency called Brand Humans, I wanted to know more about that, and I think you will too. Welcome to Ad Speaks Houston, the multiple Addy Award-winning podcast giving you the inside scoop on Houston advertising and marketing. Ranked in the top 20 advertising podcasts and available on your favorite podcast platform. Created and produced by Radio Lounge for the American Advertising Federation Houston chapter at aaf-houston.net. Let's find out more about Brand Humans and what Sonny Villarreal is up to right now. So one day I'm perusing social media and I see this announcement and I'm going, What? Oh, it's Sonny. Of course it's happening. You know, I welcomed you back to Houston a couple of years ago, and I was so happy to see you there. It's like, you're back? Oh, I was waiting for you to come back here.
Surprise.
And now what happened is you have something else going on that is so beautiful and so timely. You and I talked about, do things happen? Why do things happen? Is there a reason for those happening? Well, of course, there is a reason for those happening. But what you're doing right now with Brand Humans is important because it needs to happen now, and it is happening now. And I'll go backwards a long time ago. I have known you for so many years. You bring such a beautiful spirit to our industry, of course, as you've done that for so many years, but just to life in general. You have this upbeat, beautiful, positive attitude about stuff and what can be. I talked about the North Star that you had talked about so many times in board meetings. It was like, yeah, I get that. That is who you are. So the fact that Brand Humans is growing and happening right now is appropriate, timely, and I'm so happy.
Oh,
And congratulations, man.
thanks, Ray. Those are really strong words. Thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, we've known each other for a long time. And to hear that from you is, that means a lot. It really does. I think a lot of people say nice things. And every now and then you hear those words that just really resonate. You know they come from an honest, sincere place. And that's always been you. So wow. Thank you.
Where did you come from with this beautiful attitude? I mean, how did you, we are products of growing up and experience and stuff. Where did you get this? Is this something you were born with?
It's my mother's fault. I think you can blame my mom for that one. I think my father is a risk taker. He's a big thinker. He's a big idea guy. And then my mother I call her like she's a very natural MC. She walks into a room and she is the master of ceremonies by default. And I say that because she walks in and all bets are off. She will become your best friend, your confidant for that hour that she's with you in that room. And it's really, I think to see that growing up and to see the chameleon that is my mother. And by the way, former radio DJ.
So, really?
Yeah, she was actually a DJ in South Texas with Thomas Hayden Church, who went on to be nominated for an Oscar for, anyway. Yeah, so
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, for Frasier, right?
Wings.
Wings.
Yeah, he was Joe the Mechanic. He was Joe the Mechanic on Wings.
I love that movie. I love that
this
television
interview
show.
about Thomas Hayden Church. I'm actually a big fan of his. But my mother graduated high school with him, and they were in the entertainment biz together, working in radio. Like, what a small world. And he went on to do crazy things in
Yeah.
Hollywood. But I think my mom was in that position because of that attitude and that personality that she has. My
Yeah.
dad again is more behind the scenes, and he is more of the businessman.
Mhm.
But yeah, I when people ask me that question that you posed, I think it's my mom's fault. So you can blame her for all of this.
I think a lot of moms can be blamed for that kind of stuff. They're very inspirational people, right?
No, she is for sure. They are,
Wow.
and
Wow.
and she is for me for sure.
You have been in this market, in this industry for such a long time. Your background is pedigree as well too. I mean, you have a degree in psychology. Wow, from Harvard. To me, that kind of sums it all up. Okay, a degree in psychology, advertising and marketing. Yep, that's a great fit.
It translates. People don't
It
realize
does.
that there's a direct correlation between that type of study and that field and what we do as marketers. And I think surface level, it may not make sense, but once you really think about it,
Yeah.
it actually works really well to understand intrinsic motivators and why people do what they do beyond just the economy or inflation. That's certainly, a consideration, but why do people innately do what they do? And
Yeah.
everyone is different.
Yeah. And I, as an advertiser, it would be like, wow, he really gets this stuff. He's just not into numbers and all that kind of great stuff and creative. He's into the psychology of advertising.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are out there. Do you think? I think you're one of top upper echelon people who are
No,
doing that kind of
thank
stuff.
you,
What do
Ray.
you think?
I think to an extent, I think we live in a world of absolute information.
Uh-huh.
Back in the day, we couldn't have a immediate review of a restaurant without digging and going through this and that. And now we can know anything we want at the press of a button,
Yeah.
right? If
Right.
that, really. So we do live in a world where everything is readily available. So I do think there's a lot of information, insights, knowledge, education that's readily available for folks. I mean, I don't know what the exact stat is, but
Hmm.
the vast majority of folks, millennials and Gen Zers, are getting their news from social media and
Yeah.
not traditional news as you and I know it. So
Right.
things are shifting. There's no doubt about it, but folks are getting information, and I think they are knowledgeable about marketing, about brands, about trends, the whole nine yards. But I think in my case, I've always been very, very innately interested in people, who people are, why they are what they are. And when you think about the Hispanic market in the US, when you think about the general market, which is a term I absolutely hate, when you think of total market, when you think of all these segments and markets, they operate differently because we're all human beings and we come from different places. Wouldn't it be nice to know what motivates us and why?
Mhm. Hence the name Brand Humans. Have you always been that way? Is that something you discovered one day, or have you always been in that mindset?
You know, I think everything happens for a reason in this life, and when you have gone through the chapters of your career, you learn a lot about a lot. And in my experience, I've learned the traditional agency industry, I've learned the energy industry, I've learned international business. I've really been exposed to some interesting things. And you arrive to a point in life where you really have to figure out, do I need to continue this or do I need to create something? And for me, I think Brand Humans was a culmination of all the learnings, all the figures, all the leaders, the mentor, all the people who taught me and allowed me into those rooms and onto those boards and gave me that proverbial seat at the table so that I can learn how I wanted to operate as a marketer. And now that I'm at this point in my career, I felt, yeah, it's time to make that leap. It's time to create what I see the future of advertising as, not what we have seen it as over the past decades. I love Mad Men. I love the idea of Madison Avenue. I love the big agency. I love all of that. But the reality is things are changing. And so if I have a strong opinion on what the future is for advertising, I want to jump at it. I want to jump at it. And I want to make my idea of what the agency could be a reality.
The company is called Brand Humans, and inspired humans, inspiring work. I love that. Advertising reimagined is another phrase to it. I want to read something uh, as a descriptive of about the agency. Brand Humans is a full-service creative agency built on a revolutionary premise: respecting your teams and clients' humanity leads to extraordinary creative output. We deliver strategy, creative ideation, social media, media planning, buying, and so on and so forth. But I really love the way you approached it. It's a full service creative agency based on respecting your team and your client's humanity. Explain that.
It's interesting because it's so basic and it's so fundamental what we're trying to say with respecting our team and our clients' humanity. That should be a baseline expectation. It shouldn't be about the dollars or the hours or the number of clients, or it should really be about the relationships. We are in a people business after all. And so for us, if we're taking care of our team, if we're taking care of our clients, which by the way, we call them partners, we don't like clients.
Yeah.
And 91% of clients do not like to be called clients. They prefer partners. So we call them partners. And that's important because we are people. We work with each other every day. Wouldn't it be nice to enjoy the people that we work with? And so it's not just respecting the humanity, but you have to double click on that and ask, well, what does that mean? How do you respect someone's humanity? They're copywriters, they're art directors, they're account folks. And how do you respect their humanity? It's pretty simple. It's autonomy, it's flexibility, it's the idea of allowing folks to do what they do, right? And so there's all kinds of data points to support this, and we have them listed on our website. But 77% of ad agency professionals are burnt out. That's more than 3/4 of advertising professionals. That's nuts. It's really pretty bonkers. And so if you think about that, what's the missing link? What is missing? What is the ingredient that you can add to that mix to turn that around? Is it culture? Is it, for us, it's autonomy and it's flexibility. We have a really nicely curated team of 8 core team members here in Houston, and we have a global network of 53. And so what that does is that allows us this flexibility to activate who we need when we need them, depending on the client, depending on the project, depending on what exactly we need in that moment in time. And so it's given us this really nice customization of sorts, so we can really, again, curate the team for any particular client. And so, yeah, and we have kids who have soccer practice, we have piano recitals, we have dinner with family, we have things that are important. Those are very human needs. And I think when you are head down in the work, in the traditional ways of working, agency or anywhere else, you kind of forget, you lose sight of those things that are important. And that's what I mean by losing the humanity in what we do. You start to lose focus and you let that one dinner that was missed become 4 dinners that were missed. It may have just been one soccer practice that you couldn't take your son to, but then that becomes 6 over the course of the next few months. Those allowances, they accumulate and they add up. And so wouldn't it be nice if we entrusted our team to do the work that we know they can do? Wouldn't it be nice if they had a deadline and they knew that they had to flex their muscles and do what they love to do on their terms, on their time? I'm a musician and I work midnight to 2 a.m. sometimes because that's when I feel free and creative. That's when the kids are down and I feel very active at those hours. Those are not business hours, not for any company anyway. But for us, yeah, you want to work at midnight? Go for it. You want to work at 4 in the morning? Love it. I'll be up. Call me. And so I think just that flexibility and the autonomy of letting folks do what they love to do, it's not just a matter of how we work, but it's a matter of quality. You can tell in the output that there was attention and love and passion behind the work. And you can't necessarily do that when you have folks in a box for 1 hour needing to create an idea in those 60 minutes. So we've looked at it in a radical way, and we've kind of flipped the the switch here and we thought, okay, what if we were to start with the people? What if we were to start with our basic human needs and then work from there? As Simon Sinek says, what if we start from why we're doing this
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
go from there?
Wow. That is a dramatic change. We changed things up with COVID. Obviously, things changed a little bit there. And they became more human-centric, I think, as allowing an organization allowing humans to be humans and do things.
They did.
I think from a partnership standpoint, I think your philosophy is great because if you're working with a partner or a client or whatever you want to say, um, I think they would respect that. Like these people not only care about the product we're trying to take care and put out there and make it successful, but they care about themselves. I think that's a big deal. What do you say to that?
Clients care about these values more than we think and more than I even thought. There's a crazy stat that 69% of clients switch agencies because of values and culture. We are at this very interesting inflection point where we are seeing 30 somethings and 40 somethings in politics take those roles, those tenured roles of the older folks, the old guard, if you will. And it's really interesting because now you've got these folks who have social media as a platform and they are decision makers. They are going to craft policy for all Americans moving forward. And this is not a political statement. That idea translates to the boardroom and to these brands where you've got younger and younger folks who have a different set of values. And so, again, they want to be home with their families. They want to be home for dinner. They want to make sure to make the recitals. Very human things, for sure.
Yeah.
And when you have a client who understands that and who buys into that philosophy or that ideology, it makes it easier for a new agency with this radical idea
Yeah.
to align themselves to that. And so I've been surprised at how many clients and prospective clients have told me, wow, we've been trying to figure out how to do this thing, this flexibility thing. We've been trying to figure out how to do these perks. And I have to stop them and say, they're not perks. They're fundamental. It's the way in which we work. It's a baseline expectation for brand humans, and it could be for your brand too, but that's up to you.
Wow. Okay. We're fundamentally different. You talked about the advertising industry is at an inflection point and changing, but are the agencies seeing that now?
I think we are at a point where there is a shift happening. There's a change happening. And those that don't realize the change, those that don't jump on that bandwagon now and figure out who they are and why they are going to be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that harshly. It's like everything else. With technology as ever evolving as it is, we have tools that we never dreamt of.
Yeah.
And so if we don't adapt as agencies, as marketers, we're going to miss the boat and we're going to be left behind. And that scares me, frankly, as a marketer. I've seen the last few decades, and I think I have an idea of where the next few decades are going. And that's what this whole creation is about. I think that rather than look at the industry and the brands, think about the people who are creating the work.
Yeah.
Think about the folks who are going to be writing the copy and shooting the spots and the influencers. That's a whole nother topic, but there's a whole ecosystem. And if you start with the people and you work your way out, then you start with a very fundamental place that's healthy, it's productive, it's profitable, and that has a business case to it. So it's not a matter of, well, we can't give those perks, quote unquote, to our employees because they're not perks.
Oh.
The ways in which you work.
Yeah.
Respect the humanity.
Their respect.
Yes.
It's respect.
Again, radical idea, I know, but I feel like to an extent it's been lost in many, many companies and many industries, frankly. So it is refreshing when you hear a client or a brand manager, in our case, our partners, who tell us, this makes sense. How is this not a thing? Why are we still expected to be at the office until, the late evenings? And this is partner clients telling me this, not agencies. So if you rethink the expectations and if you really think about what you want your agency to be, what you want your brand to be, yes, we have the power to make things different, but it's that leap that's really uncomfortable, and it's a bit terrifying at times, but when you put the human aspect of it first, it's really not that difficult.
You seem to be someone who is obviously inspired, but it's not cautiously inspired because you are so inspired about things you do in life in general and in advertising as well too. So this is something that just didn't happen overnight. You've been thinking about this, and now it's happening. And I think it's really important for folks to understand from a generational standpoint to attract great people and to attract great clients and partners. You have to all be on the same page with
Yes,
stuff, and you're not going to find people who want to be a part of this whole thing unless you're doing the same thing. So
exactly.
you've assembled a team of people who are like-minded, and was that an easy thing to do, or how did you go about doing that?
That's a really interesting question because it does take time. These things do not happen overnight. When we created the Brand Humans team, we really had to think deeply about who is going to represent Brand Humans out in the community, out in the industry. What do they look like? What do they sound like? What do they buy into? And over the course of my career, I've been so lucky to meet some fantastic people, not just in Houston, but in New York, in LA, in the Middle East, in Europe, in South America. There are incredibly talented people everywhere. And fortunately for us, those talented people are at a life stage. They're at a place in their lives where certain things matter more than they did as they were coming up in this industry. And most of them are millennials. Some are Gen Z, but we have a lot of millennials. And 74% of millennials want to work for a company that offers work-life balance.
Mhm.
That's again, 3/4 of folks who are doing the work. And so as I've gone through my career and identified people I really enjoy working with, wouldn't it be cool if one day we had the chance to do something together? That is what Brain Humans is. It's a collection of folks who I have worked with, folks who they have worked with, and it's a beautiful spider web of all of these connected dots
Mhm.
who trust each other, who love each other's work, who admire each other, and now we're allowed to cross paths intentionally and create work on our terms. Wow. And we don't have to be in the same office space to do it. Isn't that bonkers? To have a project where I can collaborate with people all over the world
Yeah.
virtually and create best in class work because that is who and what we come from. It's a pretty remarkable idea even when I stop to think about it, but that was the basis of Brand Humans. How do we bring best in class resources from all over the place that we know and trust to build really inspiring work? And you can only do that if you have inspired humans.
Wow. We're going someplace that we've never been before. I love this. You're calling it a post-pandemic recalibration. We made a lot of adjustments after the
We
pandemic
did.
during COVID and post-COVID and everything. But it seems like it gave you a nudge to say, you know what? We got to change things up a little bit here. We got to
Yeah.
make this more human-centric for people. And that's what you've done. And that's what's happening. The generational leadership transition as well, I think, is an important part of what you're talking about. And you mentioned that before, but let's go into a little bit more of that generational leadership
Sure.
transition as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. And, we can name names, but you look at New York. New
Mhm.
York has a 30-something-year-old mayor. Who would have ever thought, right? You've got someone in Texas here who is going to be challenging folks for the Senate seat. And I mean, there are all kinds of great examples, but as it pertains to business and advertising, we're seeing the same thing. These CMOs, some of these CEOs from smaller shops, they're in their 30s and 40s.
Mhm.
And so, again, you have to acknowledge the data. The data is we are seeing younger decision makers who come with a different set of values. What are those values? Great. How do we tap into that? Is it aligned with Brand Humans? And I will say, we're not going to be the agency for everyone. That is crystal clear. But for those brands and those clients who understand and who believe that the next chapter of creative is going to be different,
Mhm.
it's going to be produced and ideated differently, we may be the agency for them. If they
Yeah.
respect their team as we do ours, if there's a mutual respect between client and agency, then we might have something.
Well, I think you do. I think you do, and I think
I
it's
like to think so.
timing is right and everything. It's so great you're back here in Houston too. Houston is an interesting market. Houston has a tremendous amount of people in it, and great agencies are here as well too, and great people
Of
are here.
course.
But you're tapping a global resource of people to help bring up the creative level of the stuff that is coming out of Houston.
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily brand humans as Houston centric. It's more of a global brand, would you say?
I would say that we are a global brand. We're a clearly global collective, but we're proudly based in Houston and proudly being the key word there. It's not that we are just centrally located. That's
Okay.
not it. Geographically, that does help for business, but at the end of the day, we are proudly Houston based, and we have assembled our core team that was brought up in this industry in Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, we have award-winning creatives. We have
Yes.
some World Series worthy creative campaigns. We have all kinds of really fun stuff that people know and love here in Houston, and a lot of that was done by folks on our team. And so it's not about us. It's about our clients, about our people. But I'm really proud of the work that our team has put out. And so knowing where we come from, again, looking forward to the next few decades, how do we flex our muscles with the tools, with the technologies that we have to benefit our clients and ultimately put a spotlight back on Houston? Houston has incredible creative folks, incredible. And there's no need to go to Austin or LA or New York. If you do, great. Love those cities. But Houston is equally great. It really is. It's diverse. You've got the arts, you've got economy, you've got industry. It's a beautifully diverse city in many ways. And I think that's reflected in the folks who have come to Brand Humans to, again, do what they do best.
That is powerful. Agencies, not only in Houston but around the country, around the world, seem to be fighting this AI thing these days. And you're not fighting that. What you're doing is you've taken it back to the human aspect of what an agency should be. It's like, yeah, AI is out there. AI is something to acknowledge and use and take advantage of when you're able to. But what you've done with this agency, you just might as well wipe AI off the face of the map and say, it's not about that. It's not about fighting that trend. It's about putting great people together
That's it.
to allow them to do their job. Is
That's it.
that true?
When you have folks who are, again, at a certain life stage, they're going to have a propensity to understand and embrace AI. AI will never replace humans,
Oh,
right? And it pulls from data that humans have created. So it's a funny dynamic that I think humans have with AI. But if we as marketers, as creatives, if we can use AI as the thought partner that it should be, it is an invaluable tool. My mentor gifted me with a book a good while back, almost 2 years ago, called The AI Driven Leader. And that book changed my life. I'm not here to promote the book, but wow, it was one of those reads where you say, no way, this can't be true.
mm.
Can this really happen? So if I prompt it to do this, wow, it will give me this. And people say, well, yeah, but what if I don't know how to prompt it? Then ask it to interview you
Yeah.
and you will create the prompt to give
Mhm.
it. There's endless ways to use AI. And again, it doesn't take the place of a human, certainly not a creative or a writer
No.
or a videographer, but there are ways in which to use it that massively benefit agencies. And
Yeah.
we're seeing it across the industry. Some are slower to adopt than others, but we are seeing that adoption of it. Clients are a bit uncomfortable at times, depending on the brand and the company, but if used as a thought partner, it is dangerously, dangerously beneficial. It is so good if you know how to use it.
I think you know the answer to this question. Are you? You're a great leader. Do you feel that way as well? Do you feel like a great leader of people?
Oh man, that's a tough question. One, I don't know if that's for me to answer, but two, I'll give you how I see org charts. I think that might help answer the question. I think we are accustomed to org charts where you've got the leader at the top, and then you've got the directors under that, and you've got managers under that, and so on and so forth. I'd like to think that I am the leader that is on a horizontal org chart where I am at the forefront, taking the front lines unapologetically for my team, who can either learn from what I do at the front or be inspired by what I do at the front. But I want to be on the front lines, taking the hit for the team, leading the team, putting my experience to good use. I struggle with the vertical, the hierarchical idea of an org chart. There are so many types of leaders. I'd like to think I'm a good leader, but I think when you focus on the why, when you start with the interpersonal parts of relationships and of teams, I think that is the focus. And if you're taking care of one another, if you're asking about, how your folks' days are going and what's keeping them up at night, if you're checking in on your folks, I think that is a sign of a good leader. I don't think it's necessarily profit or numbers or retention of clients. Those are certainly business indicators, no question. But I think a good leader inspires his or her team to communicate, to collaborate, again, to prioritize the humanity in what we do. If we can focus on that, I think the other stuff is fairly easy to tackle.
Was this a scary thing to do, or was this something you just jumped in to the fire feet first and said, you know what, we're going to do this thing? I think I know the answer to that. How about you?
I think when you said we are doing this thing, I think you were referring to myself and the team, but I have a family, and every decision that we have made professionally has been done as a family. So I look at we as my wife and myself.
Yes.
And yeah, it's not the most comfortable thing to take that leap into the unknown. It never is. But I think the most beautiful things in life are those that are unknown at times and require a certain sense of uncertainty, perhaps instability. But those things are worthwhile. The payoff is worthwhile. You may not see the end of the finish line or the light at the end of the tunnel for a year, 5 years, 10 years. But knowing that there's something there and knowing that there's a journey, I think is a big part of it too. You were asking about, where I get some of my traits from. Taking it to my father, my dad is a risk taker, not necessarily a cautious risk taker, but a risk taker nonetheless.
Love it.
But to do that, you have to be a little bit fearless.
Yeah.
Certainly unapologetic to an extent, but you have to be fearless, and you have to feel as if nothing and no one will stop you in your pursuit of fill in the blank. And for me, Brain Humans was not this crazy idea of, wouldn't it be crazy if this worked? Let's just see what happens. No, it was actually very calculated. Yeah. We double, triple, quadruple checked and second guessed ourselves every single day, which is not a good thing to do as a business person, as a business owner. But it is terrifying. At times, the uncertainty is daunting. But we feel in our heart of hearts that this is the new iteration of our industry. This is what other agencies, if not could, certainly should look like. If we start with our folks and ourselves and our client partners, if we start with what will make them happy, what will make their businesses go, how do we move the needle for them and us all the while? If you start in that space, things kind of fall into place, if that makes any sense. It's not the questions and the uncertainties become less and less when you have a certainty about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And for me, people are everything. Yeah. We are nothing without each other. Yeah. Right? And so if that's our starting point, then I think we have something worth fighting for.
Going back to mom and dad, I think you won the lottery there. You got the best of both. Not many children are blessed by such a beautiful background, but I think the inspiration is definitely there.
Oh, thank you, Ray.
And, I think so many people have good ideas, but they're afraid. They're afraid. They have doubts.
Sure.
And it's like, you know what? think about this, do your research, do what's right. But again, with brand humans, you're coming from a whole different way. This is not, well, we have good people to do this and this and this, and what would you like? One of these or one of these? You don't do that. You
Yeah,
build it.
yeah,
You build it based on people.
yeah.
Whoa.
It's not as radical as it seems, but because of the industry that we are accustomed to, it does feel that way. We all have the amygdala in the back of our brains, in the back of our heads, and the amygdala says, no, 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 don't do it. Don't do
Mhm.
it. You don't know what's on the other side of that door. You don't know. Don't do it. It's better to just
Open the door.
it's better to just be you at this present time and just, don't go into those uncharted territories. But when you fight that and when you know that there's something bigger and better, yeah, get after it. Make that leap, jump.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. But that's what we're doing. We're making the leap. We're jumping.
I had a story this morning that I heard on the Today Show. Barnes and Noble, they're calling it the comeback story. You're not coming back from anything, okay? You never left. But I wanted to share this because I feel like this is a lot like what you're doing. Barnes and Noble was a $2.2 billion business, 1,000 stores, lots of books, lots of stuff. Sold for $683 million in 2019. And what they're doing is coming back as great teams, and engagement. Again, this is about the people. This is Barnes and Nobles. And advertising, I think, in this respect, for Barnes and Nobles or anybody, can only do so much. But if a brand is going to work, it has to be about what the people behind the brand are, how they respond to that. And now in 2026, 60 new stores, 2024, 67, 2025, 60 more this year. They're coming back. And I feel like they have that human connection. And I think I feel is a lot like Brand Humans, is a lot like a Barnes and Noble kind of a thing. It's reemerging. It's changing the way things used to be and making them the way they need to be
It's
successful.
disruption.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. I mean, I think I feel so much. They're addressing the AI, but let's learn to figure out how we work with this to make us better at what we're doing. And that's what you're doing as well, too, isn't it? But you're doing it with people who really love it. I would assume that your team is very excited about what's to come.
Oh, for sure. I think our team understands the capability and the potential of AI and the other tools that are coming. There are
Mhm.
plenty of other tools. AI is, I think, still in its infancy. Now, there is a natural concern around production and all these other assets or these elements of advertising that we want to keep them analog. We want to keep them as human as possible. And so there is that natural concern, which I fully understand. But as a thought partner, as a tool, yes, our team is very comfortable using AI and using all the technological advancements to make sure we're doing our best for our client partners. Now, they also have to be on board with that idea, which they are.
Mhm.
Again, we're not going to be the agency for everyone, but for those clients who get it and they know the power of AI, they know the power of technology, for those folks, yeah, we might have really nice synergies actually,
Yeah,
but it's not for everyone.
yeah. People who know you understand what you're doing, and your brand comes with that, right? So somebody who doesn't know who Sonny is, and you sit down at Starbucks and just casual conversation. What are you talking about there? And I know it's not I hate the elevator speech stuff, but like, how do you tell somebody out there who may not understand from an advertising and marketing perspective of what you guys are up to? How would you say that?
I'm going to tell you if you're asking me what a Starbucks sit down probably sounds like, it's probably going to start with music. And so you're asking me about brand humans. Yes. But behind brand humans are humans, and humans like music, and they
Yeah,
like reading, and they like food, and they like travel.
yeah,
And so for me, that's always a big focus. When I meet people, I also struggle with the elevator pitch of it all. I don't like that.
I don't like mission statements. I don't like
Yeah,
elevator
yeah.
speeches. Yeah, go ahead.
It's uncomfortable, and it's also unnatural, I think. I think when people know that or when people sense that you're coming into a conversation with a pitch, or you've got that back pocket ace just ready to throw on the table and tell them why they should hire you. It's coffee. Like, chill out. I want to know, what are you listening to? Have you
Yeah.
heard this artist? Have you been to this new venue? That's probably what I'm going to ask. Do you play music? You do. Amazing. What kind of guitar do you play? Wow, I play a Fender Strat. Those to me are the connections that matter.
Hmm.
And if you are authentic and if you are sincere, if you're genuine to yourself, then that conversation around music will evolve into a conversation around their careers and their families and their hobbies and all of it. And that is invaluable as a marketer to know that information, all because you were genuinely interested in the music that the person in front of you is consuming. I mean, how crazy is that? And I use music as my example, but my dad loves burgers. And when he hears this show, he's going to lose his mind. But my dad loves burgers. He
Hmm.
loves making cheeseburgers. He loves talking about it. And it's really cool to have someone who's so passionate about that. But that's how conversations usually start with him. And then they evolve into other things. How about that restaurant? Is that still open? What are they serving these days? Have you heard of this restaurateur or this restaurant group? What they're It all evolves into something big and beautiful, but it has to start from somewhere authentic, somewhere real. So for me, it's music.
So Dad loves burgers.
That's the
Does
takeaway from this conversation.
does he grill him? Does he grill his own burgers, or do
You
you
know,
guys to go to restaurants or what?
I don't know if you're being facetious or not, but we need to talk about this.
Yes, we do.
No,
Oh, yeah.
My dad has this crazy recipe for what's called the Oklahoma burger, and I cannot believe we're talking about this on this,
It's
but it's really
wonderful.
wonderful.
I'm curious.
It's so good. It's an Oklahoma burger, which is fresh onions on top of a patty, sautéed on a flat top, and it is like the most delicious thing ever.
Wow.
And he makes like the best Oklahoma burger
Cheese?
ever. Yes, of course, cheese.
What
Cheese
kind
on
of cheese? Do we
everything.
know?
It's got to be American cheddar.
Okay,
Or
good.
sorry, American cheese, not American cheddar.
Okay.
I prefer cheddar.
me, me
That's just
too.
me.
I like all kinds of cheeses. I'm curious as well
Yeah.
too. You're very curious. You've always been that way, haven't
Super.
you? Talk about that.
Yeah. Maybe to a fault. No, I love people watching. I love connection. I love learning. When you have all of those curiosities, I mean, I'd like to think that the conversations I have with folks are very productive and they're very fruitful. And I mean that because when I go into a chat with someone, I want to walk away thinking, wow, I had no idea that this person did that. How does no one else know that? It's because they don't ask. They don't engage. Sometimes you have to get uncomfortable and ask those questions and take folks out of their comfort zones. And for me, where that may be difficult for some folks, I embrace it. I love it. I love asking folks the tough questions, diplomatically, of course, but I love learning about people. I love learning their stories, which, let's segue to general market. I hate that term.
Wow.
Humans are not general. People are not general. The fact that we would leave the
Specific.
vast majority to a term called general market is just, I think it's fundamentally wrong to me. I think everyone comes from somewhere. Everyone has a story, a lineage,
Yeah.
a religion, everything.
Yeah.
And so to resort to something like general market just always kind of irks me. I think total market is a little more acceptable perhaps, but everyone has a story. And when we talk about culture, it's not just ethnicity. It's, again, where are you from? Sure, but what do you do? What do you listen to? Where do you live? What inspires you? What language do you speak? Who are you? I feel like as a passionate soccer fan, I'm part of soccer culture. I mean, I identify as a soccer fan. And so that is a very unique and a very particular type of culture, right? Sometimes there's hooliganism and all kinds of, bad stuff that's involved in that, but I love it. Not everyone identifies with that culture. You could even argue that there's burger culture for folks like my dad, and maybe he'll hit it off with another person who's subscribed to burger culture philosophy. I don't know.
Is there a Burger Monthly magazine? Because there should be.
There
If there's
should
not,
be.
I
There
think that's an
absolutely should
important
be.
thing. Yeah, I find that to be a very true. Barnes and Noble, going back to that, they're saying that their stores in New York are going to be different than the stores in Houston or Los Angeles or Chicago or wherever. It's a local thing.
Amazing.
It connects with people, and I think going back to the philosophy behind Brand Humans, I think that any client would so appreciate that approach. And do you find that when you're engaging with potential clients, you use that same type of approach to a conversation, and I think they appreciate that.
You know, clients are appreciating what Brand Humans is, and I'm going to tell you why. And this is very unexpected to me, but when we launched, we did the post and we did all the stuff. Something really interesting happened. It wasn't a matter of us going out proactively and trying to identify the right clients. Yes, that's
Mhm.
part of it, but that wasn't really the initial launch. Something interesting happened. We had folks coming out of the woodwork, former colleagues, industry friends, folks left and right coming to us saying, I love this idea. You need to meet this person. Or I love what Brand Humans stands for. You know, I really think you will hit it off with this person. And so we had these dots naturally connected to decision makers because people, I think, identified with what we were trying to do with Brand Humans. And again, as radical as it may sound, it's really not. And I think that message was really hitting home with a lot of people in our networks to where they said, okay, I think they need to speak to this guy or this gal or this decision maker or this CMO. And we've been so lucky. Right now, we have three proposals out to two national and one international company, all because of folks in our network, our world,
Mhm.
who felt that we'd be a good fit for these big brands. I mean, how amazing and humbling is that
Yeah.
early on you're getting folks who buy into your message and are saying, yeah, you know what? You could be a perfect partner for a friend of mine. I'm going to connect you. So, wow, okay, we'll take it.
The American Advertising Federation, you did the keynote a few weeks ago, a couple of
Yeah,
weeks
the
ago,
Mosaic,
and
District 10.
you did the keynote there. What did you say to those folks up in Dallas?
You know, we talked a lot about the presentation was called Press Play, and we talked a lot about the concerns around us. And right now we are in a very interesting socio-political environment where there's instability. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring. There's infighting. I mean, we as a nation just can't seem to get on the same wavelength. And I gave a few examples of what those things are. And AI was one of them. There's AI, there's war, there's immigration, there's all kinds of things that we just can't seem to be on the same page about. Um, at the end of the day, we have to think about how do we align ourselves. And I think it's starting with the human aspect of it, taking it back to why we exist in the first place. If you think about the humans behind all of these things and decisions, well, you start to gain a little bit of clarity. I talked about self-determination theory. So under that theory, humans, they need trust slash autonomy. They need to feel empowered, and they need a crazy thing called relationships. Again, a radical thought, right? But but it's amazing when you empower folks and when they have a sense of belonging and value and purpose and relationships to share that with. Um, when you have that, it's a recipe for success. And you see it in creative output, you see it in the smiles that they give you, you see it across the board. But you have to start with what makes humans tick. How do we take care of the humans involved in this project, in this company, in this collective? And when you start there, wonderful things start to happen. But you need to know what those things are.
You seem real excited about 2026 and
I
onward and
am.
upward. How do you feel at this moment? How do you feel?
I tell people it comes and goes. It's ebbs and flows. It's peaks and valleys. There are moments where you are so inspired. There are moments where you are so excited you just can't hold it in. And then there are moments when you think, okay, reality has set in. Am I on the right track? Am I doing the right things? Am I making the right moves? Am I making the right phone calls? Human nature. And at that point, when you've arrived at that fork in the road, you can really start to second guess yourself and go down that dangerous, dark rabbit hole, or you can keep your head up and keep fighting for what is the light at the end of our tunnel, which is this new sense of advertising industry, methodology. And I do think it's going to quickly start changing across the board, but it's really difficult when you have big organizations and big ecosystems and holding companies. It's hard enough to change a brand name, let alone changing your philosophy and your culture and the ways in which you operate. So we're starting from scratch. Um, yeah, there are moments where you start to question yourself naturally, but listen, I'm a human. We're humans. That is part of the human experience. If it was all fun and games, then, well, we'd have no challenges and we'd have no ambitions. But fortunately, there are things to keep us grounded, to keep us challenged. And I really do embrace those challenges because they allow me to think, okay, if we tackle this, this is what happens. Awesome. And then this could happen. Awesome. And so I tend to focus on that part of the equation, not so much the negative what ifs.
You never have. That's not who you are. For your North Star, as you so beautifully talk about,
Thank you,
I
Ray.
wish you the very best
Thank you, Ray.
as you move through this year into the next year. It's timing is a good thing. I think it was time for this to happen, and it has happened. And Brand Humans is going to be a beautiful, beautiful exercise for you as well.
Oh,
So
that means the world to me, Ray. Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you so much, Ray. We're looking forward to it.
It's a scary place to go, and I think traditionally so because our generational stuff has been built on, well, you have a boss and you will do as the boss says, okay? And then there's this thing called autonomy, and I'm a believer in autonomy as well. You get the right people, and you allow them to shine and do everything that they can possibly do, and you have success. And that seems to me what Brand Humans is built on is autonomy.
When you have the right puzzle pieces in place and when you've curated the right team and the right resources, autonomy doesn't, autonomy is not the absence of accountability. Autonomy is really like the highest form of it. When you give people the trust and the empowerment to do what you know they can do, wonderful things come out of that versus the big brother model or the vertical org chart model. When folks have arrived to a place in their careers where they can do some really good work, let's let them do the work. Crazy thought, but let's let them do what you know they can do. And so that sense of autonomy, it is scary for many companies, for sure. And I can understand why, but when you have a model like we have at Brand Humans with the right team in place, autonomy is a given. We let people jam, and the creative output coming out of that is elevated because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. Scary idea for some,
Mm-hmm.
but not for you. I like that.
It's working so far. It's working
it's
so
gonna
far.
be it's gonna be well beyond so far, man. This is and your team members they've got to say, you do want me to do what? Okie dokie. I'm gonna yes, I'd like to be on your team because I've been looking for this all my life, and I think most creatives are. I think most people who are in any industry allow me to be who I am
Yeah.
and allow me to do my great work, and I'll be happy with that. And I think the thing that you hit on before is that we are humans too, and we have lives, we have children, and things that we have to do. Allowing people to work in that space is a big deal.
Yeah.
I think it's more important, though many may not say it, but the money. Give me the freedom to be who I am and allow me, and of course compensate me for what I do, but allow me to be me. I don't think a lot of businesses get that yet. What about you?
They don't, Ray. It's interesting because when you start with the salary or the hourly rate for freelancers, when you start with the money, you work your way out and eventually get to the work, to the creative output. And that is fundamentally incorrect.
Backwards.
If you were to think of the work first, and if you were to be given the environment to create the best work possible, you're going to make a decent living. People are going to know the work. You're going to do some damage as a creative for sure. People are going to pick up on your talents. And so, again, if we center our model around what works best for our people, and subsequently, and I guess in parallel maybe, our client partners, what works best for them. As long as you have your organization aligned, as long as you're all bought into the same philosophy, a due date is a due date. How you get there doesn't really matter.
No.
Right? So again, I mentioned earlier, we're not going to be the agency for everyone, but for that client who gets it, for that client who does not want to be at the office until 10 p.m. for really no good reason, for that client who wants to attend their kids' practices, please go and attend those practices. They're not going to be 8 years old forever. Go. We will do the work. We will do it before the deadline, and it will be quality work.
Yeah.
It's not a hard idea or concept to grasp. It's just we're so unfamiliar with it because it's so novel. It's so new, which is crazy. I didn't think about this until just now, as you prompted me with that question. But a dear friend of ours, and I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but Fred Corge. Fred Corge shared with me years ago when my daughter was born. He said, "Sonny, just remember that," he said, "I told myself for years that I worked so hard to give them a better life, to give them more, and if I can go back, I would do it differently." This is a guy who came from Madison Avenue. He told me, "Don't take the time for granted. You're going to work hard, we know it, but this time does not last forever." And I'll never forget that.
That is so profound. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad you thought to do that as well too.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had a big impact on you.
Oh yeah, he was amazing. His charisma, his charm, he was just an amazing human.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved being in his presence because I enjoyed every part of it. He was always so natural and so real and authentic. And I thought, I hope I'm like that one day. I hope I can channel my inner Fred Corge one day. But yeah, for him to give me that guidance when our daughter was, 2 years old, I mean, just the fact that he would ask about my daughter at our, our Wednesday luncheons for AAF, I just found it so sweet and so, it almost felt like he had a responsibility, he felt, to check on those around him. Wow. You talk about interpersonal skills, like that's step one. Yeah. Check in on each other. We're all here for a set amount of time, but let's be kind. Let's be respectful. Let's make sure that we're okay. And Fred always did that. And when he talked about that, about if he had the chance, he would go back and do it differently. Man, I was at a point in my career where that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, one day I'm going to build something. There's something there with what he said. There's something there. And it doesn't have to be radical. It just has to be a way that we prioritize and manage our time. And now that we've got the tools and we've got this virtual post-COVID world that we live in, there's not a good excuse not to prioritize the human element in what we do.
You're sure he's not Uncle Fred? Because it sounds like there's a family tree there, I think, somewhere. I think it's a good thing.
No, Fred was awesome.
You're doing great stuff, my friend,
Thank you.
as always. And it's such a pleasure to be able to sit down with you and talk about this new enterprise. And I wish you the very, very best. And I know it will happen for you. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
So that's the story. Can't wait to see what happens. I think I know what's going to happen. It's going to be beautiful. Thank you, Sonny, for taking the time to sit down with us here at Ad Speaks Houston, the multiple Addy Award-winning podcast, created and produced by Radio Lounge for the American Advertising Federation Houston chapter and ranked in the top 20 of advertising podcasts. Subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform. You'll never miss a new podcast. We also invite you to meet the people that represent D10, District 10 at the American Advertising Federation. Check out Ad Tension, the podcast for D10. Discover more about Ad2 Houston with their podcast, and it's called Admigos. Until next time, thank you for listening. Ad Speaks Houston is copyright 2026. I'm Ray Schillens.